Oh no. Zuko, what the fuck do you want? Look at that little tail. Oh my goodness. Look at you. What a silly thing. Oh my god. Oh. Oh, that pretty handsome face. Oh. Oh my god, look at you. Pretty boy. Pretty boy. Yo, what's the big plan? Logan flaked per usual. Yeah, I saw that. I'm just kind of waking up a little bit and, you know, just kind of getting my brain all active because my brain has been, like, dead. Puppers ahoy, indeed. But, I don't know, it's like, what, not even 3 o'clock yet? Well, about to be. So. I was assuming Tyler probably ain't gonna be a show, so it's probably just gonna likely just us two, so if that's the case, I might not bring too many snacks. At least some Funyuns and a couple other things. Got some vodka and Coke for myself earlier. Vodka and Coke. I probably done maybe something else besides Coke. I probably would have done like 7-Up. Some OJ maybe. Ooh, some orange soda. That sounds good. So, baby, you keep pawing at me. You are really beckoning attention at this moment. Oh, you know what? I did not give you your food in here. I forgot to bring you your food. Stand up. Oh, yep. You immediately were going for that treat. Yeah, because you are a little hungry. Let me get some food. Hold on. There you go. Non-alcoholic CBD soda. That stuff's always pretty good. Every time I drink CBD beverages, I throw up. Really? I never had that happen to me. When it comes to like any like THC cannabinoid drink. I mean, oof, that'd be horrible. It's like, yeah, let me try this new CBD drink. Start puking it all out. Ugh. Horrible. Oh. I also got my Bandolier in about like 30 minutes ago. So I just got it all nice and set up and everything. Not that I'm going to be using it, I guess, anytime soon, so to speak. But I got myself a little Bandolier to keep all my shit nice and secure. So there we go. Kind of make it at least a little nice looking there. Looks a little bit. Yeah. So next time I have my little shooting trip, I don't have to go fucking walk off to go to my ammo box. I can just swoop, slide those bad boys in there. Look like combat engineer with that on. What, a combat engineer with a shotgun? I don't think the military uses shotguns too much, aside for very specific uses. Like, from my understanding, like, in military, shotguns are more of like a utility tool, more than an actual gun to use against somebody. Like to breach and clear a room, you know, like to breach the door open, shit like that. So, if anything, I'd probably be like one of the breach and clear teams. You know, that'd be going in from room to room, blowing out the doors, so the rest of the guys go in there if they're smaller weapons and, you know, that are more precise to take out other targets. At least, hypothetically, in theory, the military is about precision, right? So, shotgun isn't exactly precision-wise when it comes to a weapon. So, it's like, I mean, the militaries don't really, like, use it too often. A12 is the combat shotty they use. Well, I'm not saying they don't ever use them. I'm just saying it's not like exactly the most. Like, you're not going to see just like your average squad, you know, of soldiers walking down the street or some shit, you know, doing patrol. You're not going to see them have a shotgun. They're likely to have the AR platformed weapons, you know, HK, you know, 5.56, you know, something like that. So it's just like, I mean, all in all, you know, like the HK 416, 516 models, I mean, they're going to be using that. They're not really going to be like pulling out like some Mossberg Tactical or an A12, unless again they're used for very specific roles. Because again, shotguns aren't very accurate, you know, so it's, I mean, it's just like you point and then whatever happens to spread that direction is what you're shooting at. Like, I mean, it's just like, hey, barrel aimed that way, you're shooting that. Like, that's a shotgun, basically. Like, I mean, with a rifle, it's a lot more precise, because then you can just sight it, and, you know, then it'll be like a boop. Might keep shotties available on base. Yeah, like, and they do. Like, you know, the military has them. I'm not saying they don't, they obviously do. Like, the Russians, for example, they have the Sega 12. You know, so it's just like... And I think they're actually going to upgrade the Sega 12 into something different, if I understand. So it's just like, I mean, yeah, the military has them, but they usually have them for very specific roles. They're not designed to be like an average, you know, combat weapon. Ooh, nice hit. Nice little hit to start today. Got cherry vodka, I'm pretty eager to try. Cherry vodka, huh? Ooh, that sounds good. Cherry vodka. Wait, you're trying to fucking make me hungry? Well, hungry and thirsty? I guess hungry too because of cherries. I like cherries. I gotta finish my hypnotic first. Yeah. Oh god. This is a fun little YouTube title. Saudi Arabia beheads 81, including journalists and activists. But hey. Are they literally bombing residential areas at the moment? Are they committing war crimes? Well, actually, yes, they are. I mean, but, you know, it's just like, but they're not the war crimes, you know, that we're all kind of freaking out about right now. It's pretty gruesome. Yeah. Because when you have a place called Chop Chop Square, yeah, like, you know, it's probably going to be a bloody fucking mess. My god, these, like, they're fucking, like, Saudi government's just straight up like a fucking, like, state full of just egotistical, hyper fucking religious fundamentalist, tribalistic fucking apes, like, seriously. The Saudi government, their fucking theocratic monarchy beheading people because they happen to be journalists or activists or of a different religion or did a drug or, you know, had a drink of alcohol or something. It's like, how can't you just be seen as a society of fucking animals, at least when it comes to your state? Like, the state itself is just, like, ruled by a bunch of fucking savage animals. And the people have to suffer, you know, and the Saudi people suffer for it. And, of course, the United States make sure that it is not just sanctioned, but funded. Like, they funded that shit. So, go figure. It's just like, hey, you know, it's like, you know, we got, like, you know, this tiny little country of Yemen. And, yeah, you know, we at Saudi Arabia just, we don't like the fact that he exists, so we're just gonna literally genocide and bomb the fuck out of him. Because, you know, there's terrorist bads and stuff. We should get our oil for Venezuela instead, at least they aren't a theocratic murder state. I mean, sure, it's like, I'd rather we just don't get oil in general. I'd rather just that industry just die off. But, yeah, like, if we're gonna be getting it from any country, at least based on the basis of, like, some morality of, like, you know, whether they behead people or not, yeah, Venezuela would be, like, my first fucking choice. Because, yeah, like, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, anything and everything that would savage the Saudi government would be a blessing to me. In fact, I would encourage that. I want governments to actually, like, crush the Saudi government, like, straight up. So, like, with just pure economic fucking warfare. Like, that's what like, the Saudi government deserves nothing more or less. Like, I am, like, honestly, like, half tempted to be like, why don't we do one of those, you know, Operation Saudi Freedoms? You know, like, yeah, but actually do it right this time. Like, I'm just, like, half, you know, like, advocated for that. Like, I'm just, like, borderline. Because such a backwards fucking barbaric, savage little fucking ape state, a fucking theocratic monarchist fundamentalist that just because you happen to be slightly different from them, they'd rather see you killed. And probably more so than that, they probably want to torture you and have some sort of sexual gratification from making sure that you suffer before you die. Because it's the Saudi government. They can't necessarily get sexual gratification out of anything besides raping their 1,000 wives and fucking, you know, torturing and killing people. Because that's how the Saudi government runs. Like, if it wasn't for the fact that the United States was backing them and they were an official government, they literally would be like the equivalent of ISIS or the Taliban, or actually even significantly worse than the Taliban. And even to the point where it's like, I mean, like, it's like they're ideologically equivalent of Al-Qaeda. They're the equivalent, and they fund Al-Qaeda too. Like, Saudi Arabia openly gives them money and weapons and shit. A lot of the stuff that we give Saudi Arabia goes to them. So if you see, like, you know, like Middle Eastern terrorists and all that shit, whether they're Al-Qaeda or ISIS, of a bunch of American guns, is because we gave that to them with the middleman of Saudi Arabia. Or we just gave it to them outright via the CIA because we trained them. But America ain't the fucking big global evil right now. It's Russia. It's just like, it's like, can there be multiple global evils that are all pretty much equivocal? I mean, because that's how I see Russia and America. They're essentially equivalent. It's just that Russia is now starting to do what America did in 2003. And honestly, like, kind of the amalgamation of, like, the 90s, too, with fucking Desert Storm. So, honestly, we're just seeing the same shit that we've done for decades now, only Russia's doing it this time. And it's making a lot of people in the West confused. Because they're just like, well, I guess our stuff is okay now. Do you fucking mind, bro? We're gonna be chilling and, like, hanging out and playing around all day. You're gonna be at, like, a fucking river, bro. Nationalized oil companies and use the production domestically. Yeah. Do I have to go to different country for oil because we're number one of producer of oil? We just export all of it? Yeah. Well, actually, I think technically Saudi Arabia is because of America. Like, a lot of American oil companies do a lot of contracts of business with Saudi oil companies, and if anything, they probably become a number one producer of it because mainly of refineries. They probably get the raw shit and the raw production from places like Saudi Arabia, well, primarily from Saudi Arabia, and like the shale oil in fucking Canada, and then they refine it. Like, if anything, we're probably the number one oil refinery, like, oil refining industry in the world, for sure. And then we export all the refined shit out to everywhere else. Just kind of like how fucking the cheap mass quantity of production of a lot of different commodities is done in China. We do a lot of the oil business in the world. You know, so it's just like, honestly, I mean, it's like, it ain't much different. Yeah, it's like maybe we aren't using, like, slave labor and shit like that here. Well, I mean, like, yeah, we kind of are, though. I mean, it's America. Like, we're finding ways to still do that. But, you know, it's just like, we're not so open to the point where there's, like, suicide nets on factory buildings and shit, I guess, you know, like in China and whatever the fuck. But still, it's like, I mean, fundamentally, it's like, is it really different? just because the overall conditions, might be a little different in that state. Is it truly like that much different of what it is to its core and to its root? I mean, because fundamentally, that's what truly the problem of all this shit is the root of these things. Which, especially when it comes to this mass, like, for-profit, globalized industries and shit. I wonder what happens to be a very big ideology that happens to be all about for-profit. Totally couldn't be capitalism. Definitely not it. Oh, do you have the EBT by chance? What? Do you have the EBT by chance? Just gonna grab a couple snacks. A couple things. A little bit. Well, it's gonna get too much. Do little transactions over here.
Wait for that.
Capitalism, yeah, pretty much. But hey, think about the small businesses. Think about the little mom and pop shop, though. You gotta think about them. I mean, capitalism is good because damn. It's like, I mean, I think you can have the whole idea of like small businesses, or at least like, the whole like mom and pop shop thing. I think you can have that without inherently having the whole like capitalism idea, Just a thought. Because there's definitely plenty of things like that can easily be still done with, with the whole, essentially with out the whole capitalistic nature of it. Because I mean, for example, my mom used to have like her own little small business, a photography studio and shit, and it's like something like that can easily be done in a non-capitalist system just as much as a capitalistic system. So it's like there's definitely aspects about like the small business front or the mom and pop shop thing that isn't strict to capitalism. Oh no, do you know what the lost cause myth is? I'm pretty sure I do. It's the idea that the South, is not inherently a lost cause, and it's actually a myth because X, Y, or Z or something. Despite it being, it literally being a lost cause. What side had the most amount of industry? That says it. Like, when it comes to factories and industry and weapons manufacturing, who was the #1 fucking manufacturer of that shit during, in America, just in general, outside of the fucking, Confederacy and the Union? Like, I mean, dead ass. Like, which one had the most amount of gun manufacturing, more people, and just some more of an industry to, build itself up upon, to, prolong and sustain itself in a war? The Union, the North. Like, honestly, it doesn't matter how long, the South could have survived or tried to drag on the war. It's only inevitable. Like, fundamentally, most wars are wars of attrition. So it's just like, if at a certain point you're not going to have enough industry, manpower, or resources to keep your forces built up, if the other force just has a fuckload more, or has an ability to maintain their manpower, resources, and equipment. If you got a country like, the Union at the time, that was, that had a lot of these industries, way more in comparison to the South. It's like, yeah, it was just very much so an inevitability. Had the South won. I think the South, we would have seen World War I over here. Yeah. Anyone who thought, like, the Union and Confederacy could have been natural allies eventually over time is straight up fucking silly. It's like, no. No, they wouldn't. There, in fact, would probably be skirmishes on the border, like, up to today, if somehow they would exist to this point. Like, there straight up would be overt, like, fucking skirmishes, like little firefights back and forth between, like, ranch hands and you know, different fucking people and shit. Like, there's gonna be all sorts of fucking things that would be very hostile, antagonistic to each other. Like, there would be embargoes, sanctions, all sorts of shit. And there probably would be, like, little miniature wars constantly. Like, oh, we want this state, well, too bad, fuck you. Well, we're gonna go to war to get that state, you know, or that territory or some shit. There would just straight up be things like that, off and on. There would never be some natural allyship. Like, if the United States and the Confederacy were still, like, separate states to this day, they would not be allies. They would be fucking enemies. And honestly, the whole idea of trying to reunify the entire nation, in a sense, probably would have died off by that point and just been seen as two separate states. So at that point, you know, anyone in the North probably couldn't give a fuck about, you know, like, trying to reunite the U.S. and shit at that point. It's just more about keeping the South to heel and making them obedient. I met people who think slavery would eventually end in the South without forcibly killing it. Then how come there's been plenty of other fucking states and plenty of other nations that abolished slavery well before the United States even were thinking about it? And how come all that time leading up to the abolition movement, there was a lot of fucking violence, bloodshed, and lynchings, and all sorts of shit that were going on leading up to that? It's like bullshit. There's still fucking, like hate crimes and fucking and shit going on the auspices of, like, yeah, the South will rise again. But today, still. So it's just like, the fuck? Man, that's either some denial shit, delusion, or just stupidity. Or all three. I think they could have gone away with, if they would have had slavery today. I don't know. I already got rid of my canes. But I mean, if they had slavery today and getting away with it, I mean, probably. Honestly, like, I mean, there's slave trades going on in Africa and Asia, in America still. I mean, it's just like, yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it would still be somewhat tacitly accepted. Definitely way more than it would be now. Because even to, like, some conservatives or people in the South, like, you know, there's definitely some people that are like, yeah, slavery is actually not cool. There's definitely people that, you know, even conservatives, I think that's definitely, like, a reprehensible, fucked up thing. The Southern school system filled with bullshit of how great America is and how great the South in general is. Well, of course. It all comes down to the education system with that. It's like, hey, you know, we're going to teach, like, this American mysticism instead of actually teaching history. And then it's like, if you actually do that, then there are going to be plenty of parents or even kids who will be like, wait, what? No, that's not how I was taught, and this ain't how I think it is. And then they're going to have a big old hoopla over it and shit. So it's just like they have to basically just, like, placate to these fucking sore loser little bitches that are just like, oh, man, stuff, you know, that's great, and this and that, brr. But in reality, it's just like it's just a reprehensible fucking state. Like, the Confederacy deserved to get squashed like 10 times over. And honestly, there was a lot of, and just after the Civil War, it wasn't just, there were actually, I actually kind of saw, I didn't see the movie yet. It actually has Matthew McConaughey in it, funny enough. But it's called The Free State of Jones. And it's a 2016 movie that I just never heard of until now, or yesterday. And it's about, like, it's about basically Southerners who, like, rebelled against the rebellion. Like, it's a rebellion within a rebellion within a rebellion type of thing. It's like meta-rebellion shit. So, and honestly, for me personally, I consider these to be, like, some of the more, like, true Americans, you know, of America, if you think about it. Because the fundamental idea about what the whole Free State of Jones was, it's a county within Mississippi. And while Mississippi is, like, one of the worst fucking states when it came to slavery, anti-black, or, like, you know, black suppression type of laws, including, like, at the time was called the Negro Codes, but, like, basically, like, these black codes that essentially were like, oh, you know, if you know, if an apprentice or, you know, or servant of, you know, the master, you know, leaves or for whatever reason, their master can actually, you know, bring them back, you know. So it's like they're technically free, but they're not because they're indentured servants. And if they leave, then they get captured, like slavery, but extra steps, basically, like quite literally. And, you know, there was all sorts of other shit that were going on during this time as well. But in the county of Jones County, like that county specifically was the one that had the least amount of secessionist fervor, the least amount. It also had the lowest slave ownership as well, and a lot of people actually in that county were heavily disillusioned at the idea of the Confederacy. They were like, "What the fuck is this? I don't want this." Like, if anything, they saw, the people of Jones County saw themselves as, like, we didn't secede. Like, us as a county, we aren't secessionists. We're, like, we're just our county. Like, we don't know what the fuck this is about. Like, we're just, you know, it's like, we're kind of caught in this. And it kind of embodies a lot of these, they were called, like, Southern Unionists or, like, Southern Loyalists. And they were loyal, and Southern Loyalists in the sense that they were Northern Loyalists, but in the South. So, hence... because at the time, loyalists didn't mean like, you know, like loyal to Confederacy by, you know, but loyal to the North. So you had at the time, like, you know, Southern Unionists or like Southern Loyalists who were still loyal to the North, who basically, you know, were like who would be conscripted into the Confederate troops and Confederate battalions and companies, and a lot of them would desert, and a lot of them would form their own little communes basically in these little free states, and primarily most famously the Free State of Jones County, where with Newton Knight, and where basically they took you know, not just, you know, disenfranchised disillusioned white Southerners, but also free black slaves, black slaves who escaped. You know, those, just literally anybody, just anyone who was kind of, you know, not for this whole Confederate idea, and against slavery too. Like some pretty basic, simple, you know, principles and shit that, you know, that were pretty against the Confederacy in itself. And also kind of, and a lot of the influence, at least when it came to Free State and Jones, actually also came with John Brown too. So there's a little correlation between them. Because I think if I remember, Newton Knight, knew of John Brown. Well, not just knew of him, but actually knew him, if I remember. But if not, he definitely most certainly knew of him and was very well influenced by him. In fact, they pitched that slave owners extended a type of insurance to their slaves for health care akin to Social Security. No, they didn't. Like, there was an incentive to make sure their slaves were healthy so they could keep working, but that was about as far as it went. That's literally as far as it ever went. It's like, hey, are you healthy enough to work? Good. Get working. Like, that's basically what it was. I mean, it's just like, if it was on the auspices of Social Security, then they wouldn't necessarily have to work then. It's like, how come they have to work for it? It's like, if it's like akin to Social Security, then it's just something that they would have access to and have availability towards. It's like, hey, you know, even though they happen to be a slave, but have Social Security apparently by the massa, then it's just like, they shouldn't necessarily have to work then, right? Because, like, they get the healthcare and get the basic necessities, and it's a part of, you know, like, their security of being alive, you know? But it's just like, no, they don't get that unless they fucking bust their back, and if they don't, they're gonna get beaten. Or penalized in some other way. I guess it does depend on the fucking slave owner. Some were very, very fucking brutal, and others were... It had a little bit more of a softer approach and had ways to incentivize, you know, to keep their, you know, slaves working. But... you know, because they saw the more brutish way of doing so probably wasn't the best way. I guess it makes sense, less chance of rebellions if slaves were like, yeah, he's not bad, he doesn't beat us or harm us or anything like that. You know, if you penalize us, but maybe not giving us, you know, our dinner at the end of the night if we fuck up or something. You know, it might be like shit like that. But still, it's just like, there's no, like, Social Security fucking thing. There ain't no, like, incentive, you know, for the, you know, for, like, some plantation owner to, like, make sure their slaves are healthy. Outside of making sure they're healthy enough to work. That's it. Like, if they have, like, you know, some laceration or a mild infection, but can still fucking, you know, like, you know, pick up the cotton or whatever the fuck, then they're gonna do that. They're gonna make them do that instead. It's like, oh, you're a little sick or a little injured, you need to kind of tend to your wound, but you're still able-bodied? Fuck you. Get to work, bitch. It's like that, it didn't matter. Like, honestly, I bet maybe there was probably, like, 2, like, different plantation owners that probably had that actual idea of, like, oh, you're actually kind of sick? Take the day off. We'll have someone else, you know, take care of your work for you today. You know, it's like, I guarantee there's only literally 2 that ever existed in the South, like, ever. If they are, I would, and that's just a maybe, too. If they did, I'd love to know what their fucking names were. Because evidently they actually, you know, were kind of benevolent then, apparently. It's just like, what the fuck were they doing then? But, no, it's like that it's just such a weird-ass fucking idea, and honestly, it's just straight up a fucking fantasy. I mean, it's just like looking at those weird, you know, like some of the art at the time, like from the 1800s and even afterwards, of, like, you know, of the depictions of, you know, slaves, at least during their off time, you know, and basically painting it like that's how it was. It's like, oh, their off time is actually what it looked like. Oh, they're all just having a good time, some playing the fiddle and having a little dance and all that stuff, and you got a couple out in the background probably singing a little hymn, you know, while they're, you know, picking the fields and stuff. It's like, no, that's literally not how it was. I mean, they used it off time as escapism, hence why they, you know, were playing music and dancing and shit, because that was, like, the only time of, like, happy, you know, positive, like, shit and experiences that they had. So it's like, yeah, they're gonna, yeah, you know, they're gonna get together and play music and do all that shit a lot, and there's probably gonna be a lot of artistic pictures in that, because that's their escapism. That's all they had. Aside from maybe the rare time that their, you know, masters will let them have, like, a little, like, hey, you can go out in public, you know, into town and grab a couple things, slip. Like, get a little slip, and then, you know, the slave can go out in downtown and pick up stuff for, you know, the plantation and shit. Like, but there's rules with it, though. It's like, you have to have, like, a little slip or, like, a little paper, you know, whenever, you know, white folk come up to you, be like, hey, what you doing out here? It's like, oh, picking up stuff in the master, here's this card. You know, it's like, here's this paper, you know, giving me the exemption to be out here. So, alright, go about your way, boy. You know, they're gonna be that type of shit. Due to me having black heritage, but no one has enforced that law in decades. Yeah, because of, honestly, due to one of the great-great-grandchildren of Newton Knight, because Newton Knight had a wife who was a former slave, and they had children, and obviously, you know, those kids had kids, and so on and so forth, and there was a 1967 case of, I think, you know, of Knight versus the state of Mississippi, about this type of shit. And of course, Mississippi literally fought tooth and fucking nail, despite this guy looking white as fuck. But he was 1/8 black, because of Newton Knight and his relations with Rachel Knight. I'm pretty sure his last name's Knight. Hold on. Actually, let me make sure I'm getting his name correct. Yeah, it's Newton Knight. Well, hold on. I'm just trying to make sure. Oh my god, Google, can you fuck off and stop being a cunt? Yep, Newton Knight was an American farmer, soldier, and Southern Unionist in Mississippi. Best known as the leader of the Knight Company, a band of Confederate Army deserters who resisted the Confederacy during the Civil War. So, yeah, it's Newton Knight. My great-great-granddaddy was black, but he was Obama black, so he could get away with being mislabeled as white. Or at least like, hey, you're white enough. You're white passing. But yeah, so Knight has long been a controversial figure in the region, with people divided over his motives and actions. He and his allies developed a small mixed-race community in southeastern Mississippi, Jones County. His interracial marriage with Rachel Knight was considered illegal, as Mississippi had banned interracial marriages before and after the war, except for a brief period during Reconstruction. Let's see if I can find that. Let's see if I can find the court case thing specifically here. Because that's in here somewhere. Should be in Legacy, I believe. Where is it? No, I can find it in here somewhere. Because I saw it in here. Okay, yeah, here's, as most of Rachel's later descendants were white passing, they fled to other states and started new lives in 20s, 30s, and 29, blah, blah, blah. Davis Knight, right? Yeah, here it is, Davis Knight. So this is, the guy's name from, Rachel's great-grandson, Davis Knight, married, Junie Lee Spradley, a white woman, in 1946. 2 years later, Davis was charged with violating the Mississippi state constitution at the state. Quote, the marriage of a white person with a Negro or mulatto or person who shall have 1/8 or more of Negro blood shall be unlawful and void, unquote. During his trial, Davis asserted to the court that he was white as his wife believed him to be white and his Navy service records listed him as white. Initially, the court proclaimed that because his great-grandmother Rachel Knight was considered black, I'm just going to just say that, it implicated Davis at least 1/8 black and therefore was in violation of the law. This is an example of Mississippi's one-drop rule, which states that if an individual has any black or African ancestry, they will be considered legally black. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison. In 1949, Davis appealed his case, and the Supreme Court of Mississippi reversed his conviction. And Mississippi state laws against interracial marriage were nullified by the U.S. Supreme Court when it passed Loving v. Virginia, 1967, formally repealed in the 1980s. So it's just like, it's like this fucking weird ass shit, honestly, where it's like, oh, you happen to be kind of black? Nope, it's illegal to marry a white woman or a white man. It's just like, what the fuck? Alabama had a similar one-drop law, as most of these southern states did. Like a lot, if anything, honestly, Mississippi was the state that started a lot of this, and other states just, kind of joined in with, within that same type of idea. So other states like Alabama, Florida, like all these different states, very certainly have different versions of that type of law. Maybe not, to that specificity, but very likely, or at least used to. I think Alabama is still on the books. Oh, gross. Gross. And it's fucking, like, weird-ass, like, anti-interracial laws. It's just straight up. It's like, huh? I mean, it's like, uh-oh. It's like someone happens to be a little, a little bit of mixed race here. We can't allow, these fuck people to be integrating and intermixing and stuff and that. It's literally just based off of just old-ass fucking racist tribalistic bullshit. Of just like, oh, they look different from me, so Dustin must be from a different tribe, don't like that. So stupid. Have you heard about Florida's Yeah. Talked a lot about that yesterday. Reacting to Bill Maher. Because Bill Maher, of course, was defending it. Oh, thought those being sleepy boy. He's just looking like a little sleepy boy. Bill Maher went on with Ben Shapiro and gave a "I haven't changed, you have" speech to the world's dumbest pundit. I know. I saw a clip of that, and apparently that thing, the whole interview was like an hour long. Oh God, I don't even know, man. I don't even know if I can make it through. I don't even know if I can make it through that entire thing. Like dead ass. I don't know if I could. This is interesting. Chicago rivers dyed green every year for St. Patty's. Is that safe? I'm gonna check comments. Is anyone, is it like the source? Hey, let's trust the comments, bro. Let's see. If anyone's curious, they use a special green dye made by the Plumbers Union. Oh, cool. Okay. It's basically food coloring, and it dissipates in less than 2 days. Also harmless. The rest of the year, it's used to find leaks in pipes. Oh. Okay. Cool. Well, that's based. So, like, the local Chicago plumbers unions are all like, hey, let's get together, use some of our spare dye, that's harmless, to just make the river green. Like, it's like, all right. Ukraine salvaging PKTs off of wrecked Russian armor. I think I just saw that thumbnail. I just saw that thumbnail, like, right below this little community post about the St. Irish thing. I kind of want to see this, though.
Weapons.com.
I was tempted to click on this.
Just a little bit of commentary that I want to give you on a video that I've had, understandably, several people send me the link to already. And this is video from, I believe, French television station showing a
France 24
automotive shop that is rebuilding captured Russian machine guns for Ukrainian use. Now, what's actually, I think it's worth going into a little bit more detail on what's going on here, because it's both interesting and it's not something brand new. This has certainly been done before. So,
of course,
what's going on?
I mean, honestly, like, taking old gun parts and broken guns and making a new gun out of it or making it work again there's nothing new about that at all.
Ukraine has destroyed and captured a lot of Russian tanks and other armored vehicles.
I mean, you're not wrong. They are technically Soviet. They're old as shit. They're from the Soviet era.
Of Ukraine. And
at least a lot of it is.
In particular, are often armed with coaxial machine guns. The idea is a tank armament is going to be not just the main cannon, which is used primarily for engaging other armored vehicles, but also usually two machine guns that are used for other things. For example, if a tank runs into enemy infantry in the field, it's not really that effective to try and use the main gun on them. That's not what it's designed for. Instead, what they will do is design the
you never know when you
machine gun
when you will need extra parts. Of course,
to the main cannon, generally just off to one side. And so the gunner can choose to use a machine gun instead of the main cannon. The machine gun is, of course, far more effective at engaging infantry on the ground or light vehicles like trucks and that sort of thing. Typically, they will also have another machine gun mounted on the top of the turret of the tank. This is intended to be used for anti-aircraft use. Those are often 50 caliber guns, NSVs, and maybe cord machine guns. I'm a little less familiar with those. But when it comes to the coaxial guns, in the current Russian tanks that we see in Ukraine, the upgraded T-72s, the T-80s, and the T-90s, those coaxial guns are PKs. They're specifically PKTs. So the PK is the standard Russian machine gun from, oh boy, it dates back to the 1960s. It is an outstanding machine gun, originally designed by Kalashnikov, and it was made in a variety of configurations. So, of course, there's the standard infantry version with a shoulder stock and a pistol grip and a bipod, and it's a general-purpose machine gun for the infantry. But in order to just simplify logistics and manufacture of machine guns, they made the PK in a tank version as well, something that you could mount as a coaxial gun. The difference being the coaxial version has a little bit heavier barrel generally because, well, the tank's going to carry it, so you don't need to worry about how much the gun weighs. And then it doesn't have a pistol grip or a visible trigger or a shoulder stock because this thing is being mounted mechanically into a tank turret, and it's going to be fired by...
I'm pretty sure the trigger is actually that little thing right there with the chain. You just pull that. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's a little...
firing system. Just
oh, maybe it's that little button. It's one of these two things.
Main cannon. You know, there's not a... back in the 1930s.
Okay, so that's the... okay, so that chain is connected to the bolt, so that's how you can chamber the round, and that button is the trigger.
The plunger, really, on the side of it.
Wow, you can see where Kalashnikov really put the work into it. Dust cover.
Anymore, things are electronically controlled, and so coaxial...
Yeah, Kalashnikov definitely made that.
by a solenoid.
I could just tell if that dust cover.
So,
very Kalashnikov.
Now,
very Kalashnikov design.
Destroying Russian tanks are able to salvage these PKT coaxial machine guns, and the fundamental mechanism of the gun is identical to the PK machine guns that they're used to using that are excellent machine guns, but it's hard to use them without a bipod or a trigger or a pistol grip or a shoulder stock. And so that is what this shop, in this automotive shop that was featured, is doing. They have designed essentially a bolt-on shoulder stock trigger pistol grip mechanism that they can mount onto a PKT machine gun that's been removed from its armored vehicle. And it looks like they're actually doing the same thing to some of the 50 caliber guns. Like I said, I'm a little bit less familiar with those, so I'm not sure exactly which models. Often, it's like sometimes the anti-aircraft machine guns mounted on tank turrets will actually have a regular trigger. Sometimes they have spade grips. I'm not sure exactly what the configuration is on the current use Russian tanks. So, but you can see in the video that they have at least one 50 cal in there that they're working on. It isn't.
I mean, honestly, like, I bet that 50 cal isn't necessarily a Russian one, but was probably acquired, you know, from, you know, maybe like a old Ukrainian vehicle that, you know, got busted up and they just took it in. I mean, I don't think the M2 Brownie, like, I don't think that 50 cal machine gun there is necessarily fucking a Russian one. Could be a licensed Ukrainian built one that got banged up a little bit and they took it in there to try to work on it.
The Finns did the exact same thing with, well, at that point, Soviet tanks and their mounted machine guns, their coaxial machine guns. The difference is at that point, first off, not all the guns were coaxial. Some of them were hull-mounted machine guns. That was a thing in World War II. You would have sometimes the driver, sometimes a separate gunner, crew member.
That's so cool.
Would have a machine gun mounted in the hull, or sometimes like in the back of the turret of the tank that could be used to engage infantry. And in World War II, or during the Winter War, those guns were DT. In this case, T is tank. I'm not sure the exact word in Russian, but it stands for tank. Today, PKT is Pulymet Kalashnikova, Kalashnikov machine gun. Back in the Winter War, it was a DT. It was a Degtyarev machine gun. And what's interesting about the Degtyarev tank guns is they were actually designed
that's a cool
for
stock.
dismounted use. So they came with clamp-on bipods that were stored in the tank, and they had collapsing shoulder stocks that stayed on the gun all the time. The idea being, if the tank crew themselves had to abandon their vehicle, they could pull the machine gun out, take it with them, and have some armament. So in the Winter War, when the Finns would destroy or capture Soviet tanks, they could pull out those DT machine guns and use them as is without any modification. And we actually have, you know, there's a lot of photographic evidence of Finnish soldiers doing just that, fighting as infantry with captured Russian DT.
I mean, it really is.
Anyway, it's a neat bit of historical comparison. It's interesting to see this being done in the Ukraine. Oh, and actually, one last interesting point. This is not unique to the Ukraine. It's interesting that this sort of conversion was actually being done in the United States for a while, not that long ago. There has always been a vibrant home building firearms community in the United States.
Oh, hell yeah.
And from the 19...
I mean, honestly, I'm probably going to do that when I get my Vishka. Like, when I get my Vishka here and at some point, I'm going to upgrade that and, put, like, my own kind of little turn on, or a little spin on it. Like, because especially if it's still available, like, having an East German folding stock on there, oh my fucking god. Oh, that'd be nice. It didn't get, like, a wooden pistol grip, but then, like, like, top wooden foregrip, and then a bottom, rail receiver, to put, like, a little angled foregrip on there on the front of it. Oh my fucking god. Oh, that looks so sick. Then an optic rail dust cover. I mean, yes, please. So I can put like a little aim point on there or something. Fetch for East German stuff. It's not even that. It's like, I mean, honestly, the only reason why I'm thinking about the East German folding stock is because I actually found one. Like, I mean, like, I dead ass wasn't, thinking, I would find one of those and have a possibility of, potentially putting that on a firearm. It's just like, I mean, it's like, it's really hard to find mainly East German guns and gun parts, not like, the equipment, like, uniforms, different little things like that, mag pouches, kits, like canteens, all that type of shit. That's easy to find. Well, in relation to East German firearms specifically, like, East German firearms are fucking a dime a dozen. Zukov! Hey! Zukov! No! Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! No! Stop! Shh. You fucking Fruit Loop. You look like you are remembering a good call when you talk about East German stuff. Oh my god, whatever, fuck off. I mean, it's like, because I'm thinking about that stock. I'm thinking about that East German folding stock, dude. I mean, because, goddamn, do I want it.
In the 2010s or so, parts kits were pretty cheap and available, and there were a lot of people building semi-auto firearms out of machine gun parts kits. And PKs were, of course, always a popular gun because they are such a fantastic light machine gun. But for a long time, PK kits, or PKM, modernized kits, were really pretty hard to get. But there were a couple of companies that were importing PKT kits. Same thing, actually, with SGT kits.
Is Borking spooked my kitty? Yeah, probably.
The later World War II Russian coaxial tank guns. And these things all came with solenoid triggers, just as they do today. And for a home builder in the U.S., rebuilding the receiver as a semi-auto was one thing, but then they also had to actually modify the firing mechanism to go from a solenoid trigger that came in the parts kit to building up some sort of shoulder stock and hand trigger, exactly like these Ukrainian mechanics are doing. So nothing really new under the sun. It's interesting to see this happening. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully this was enlightening, educational, give you a little more insight into what's going on in the video. So definitely check out that original video. I've got just a little clip of it here for you to see, but the whole thing is about 3 minutes long, and I will link to it in the end cards of this. Thanks for watching.
Cool. Widespread amongst the Chechen rebels during the second Chechen wars. You're right, that's new under the sun. Oh, of course. It's always cool seeing improvised weapons. Oh, yeah. I love seeing it. Especially in, like, World War II weapons, like, because they're, like, some partisans would, like, do little different, kind of clever little ways to kind of keep certain things. Like, there was, because I know Forgotten Weapons did this video of a partisan acquired MP40 that he happened to get his hands on that had a little weld on it. So there's, like, a fat pouch on the side of the gun where the ejector would be at for the casings for the and essentially that bag would be for collecting all the spent brass and all the spent casings when you shoot. So you can take the bag off and then, you know, go to the, you know, like reloading kit area and then drop all the spent brass, and then somebody else over there would be fucking, you know, working on getting new bullets worked out. You know, so in a way that would help save bullets. Yeah, because whatever brass is still available and useful, and, you know, whatever they can get their hands on it that way, then they can be able to, you know, not necessarily scrap so much off the field, you know, or at least, you know, have to pick up so much equipment off of the, you know, Germans that they be in firefights with, because that, you know, all in all, that'd still be very dangerous, because if you got a couple bodies up, you know, in the middle of, like, the road or something, you don't know if there's a few Germans still, you know, way off in the distance, a couple blocks down, you know, with their KR-98s, you know, just like, you know, wait and take a pot shot for someone to grab some shit. Especially as, like, the war started going near the end of it, as these partisans were having a lot more heavier firefights. I guarantee you they were doing shit like that. Once they started realizing, like, yeah, they're getting guns from us, so, you know, if we retreat, have a few guys, you know, still aiming at the road so they can pick off people grabbing fucking, you know, shit off of our guys, you know. Yeah, because you don't want, you know, the enemy to get more ammo and parts and all that shit, right? So, I mean, but that's why, you know, certain things like that are, all in all, legit very clever. Because it's definitely, you know, more resourceful to try to keep, you know, what you have and try to reuse it as much as possible, instead of just trying to, you know, keep, you know, scraping up ammo from the troops that you're able to defeat. It's just like, it's maybe a longer process, you know, to reload and rearm the bullets and stuff, but it's still more resourceful, and all in all, definitely more clever. I'd just be wondering how they get all the fucking primers and gunpowder and shit. Like, I'm sure they had a way to fucking, you know, melt down metals into bullets, but, like, I'm just curious how they fucking, how they got all the gunpowder and the primers. Because, you know, there was a lot of underground little, like, armories and shit going on in places like Poland, France, so on and shit. So, they obviously had a supply of something. They had something, you know, they had a way to get it. Maybe they snuck it out of, like, weapon manufacturers or something, like, you know, during, like, supplies, drop-offs, or exports when, like, the trucks, you know, full of these things were leaving. Maybe they, just raided those or something. Or had an insider, possibly. I got no. Either way, they had their means. They knew what they were doing. Okay, avoid touching that Christmas tree. I will eventually have to. I don't want to. Look at this fat fuck. Probably mixed with insiders raiding supply convoys. Yeah. Very likely the case. Pretty much like the exact same thing going on in Ukraine right now. Only there wouldn't necessarily be insiders, like the manufacturers or whatever type of factories, you know, that can make primers or gunpowder and shit. I'm sure they're obviously very more than willing to be like, yeah, here, take all the gunpowder and primers you need, comrade, to rearm your bullets. It's just like, yeah, I don't think they're necessarily going to be, you know, having any ill will about that. I mean, hell, they're trying, like, Poland and other countries that are ammo and weapon manufacturers as well, or at least have companies that do that too, or try and do that. Honestly, I kind of hope that, especially for 7.62x39, that some Polish ammo manufacturers send some over here in the U.S. Make it so there's a little bit more accessibility to 7.62x39, damn it. I want to kind of stock up on that. Thank you. I mean, I'm not kidding. I actually really do. Because I'm just set on that Vishka. Like, I am definitely set on that. So, it's just like, might as well start stocking on the ammo for it. Because, especially for 7.62x39, that's going to be really hard to come by. So, the Vishka might honestly be one of those things that I'd take out shooting pretty rarely. If anything, it'll probably just be my little project gun. Because I definitely want to build it up a little more out of its original stock form. If Germany finally rearming, maybe Russia will think twice before moving on to Europe. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, it's good that, you know, there's a little bit more of a flex to be like, hey, don't fucking touch us, because we got, like, a military that could probably kick your ass a little bit. I mean, that's definitely a good thing, but it's just, like, especially given the circumstances, wouldn't it be a little bit more fruitful to try to be, like, less antagonistic? I mean, it's like, yeah, you know, don't, like, you know, not, you know, fucking try to get your shit built up and kind of at least be prepared. If anything, like, I'd also say that these different states that, you know, probably don't have as much of, you know, when it comes to, like, marksman clubs or sport competition shooting and shit like that, like Finland does and Ukraine did, it's like, you know, that needs to be kind of maybe more expanded, and maybe some of those laws loosened up just a little bit, you know, when it comes to accessibility for that for the people. Because honestly, it's just like, I mean, it's not necessarily just the military, but if you got like a good chunk of your civilian populace that has guns and knows how to fucking use them, that it's just that much more harder. Like, I mean, it's that much harder to fucking, you know, tame the population when a good chunk of them have guns. Doesn't have to be all of them. I mean, fuck, even America, not every fucking human being here has a gun. I mean, I didn't until recently, you know, so it's just like, I mean, it's more about, you know, the people that know how to use them and those that do. And if those that do and know how to use them and shit, you know, aren't willing to just kind of sit down and take it, you know, if the military gets defeated, then it's just like, it's just that much fucking harder. Like, how in the hell are you going to be able to, like, fundamentally, you know, have a, you know, occupation when you're always getting, like, picked at and fucking, like, harassed and poked out, you know, by the insurgents and shit. It's like, I mean, it's a constant struggle. F-15s are up. See if we can see them. See where they're at. Speaking of military shit, there's just some out here right now. Oh yeah. They're above these clouds. I can hear them, but they're above the clouds up here. Boop. I hear them. They're above all these clouds up here and shit. Big poofy clouds. Poofy poofy clouds. Hey, boy. Zooks, bro. You silly boy. Canada's basically a U.S. vassal, and Mexico is unable to do anything. Dare say American mainland will likely never be invaded. At least not in our lifetime. Definitely not. The only realistic possible place would maybe be Mexico, but, like, America would just immediately react to any fucking nation that would do that. So it's just not going to happen. I suppose it could be attempted, but I mean, it wouldn't really work. I suppose it's not, you know, without an attempt. Like, I mean, it's very likely that, you know, a country like China, you know, could try, though they would fail. Because, yeah, because hypothetical, let's say, yeah, maybe Russia will try and have, like, some coalition in the future or some shit, and, you know, have at least some stable foothold on the West Coast or some shit, including, you know, Canada to a degree. Do you know how much, like, there's, like, all that butt-fuck you know, like, land and fields and plains and, you know, and all that shit. It's just, like, good luck. There's just endless swath of just endlessness in so many different areas, in so many different directions, especially the Midwest of just flat land. It's like, yeah, I mean, good, straight up, just good fucking luck. I mean, you know, like, you have so much territory to try to advance up on. And while maybe in the Midwest you might be able to gain a lot of territory, but, you know, in very specific key areas, you'd get hella bogged down. You know, so it's not, and especially if you hit it in the winter or like maybe during springtime when some of the monsoon rains and shit kind of happen. Well, I mean, not monsoon rains, but whenever heavy rains come in these areas, it's going to be a lot harder to fucking traverse them, especially if there's areas that are prone for flooding with heavy rains. Like Texas, for example. Like, I mean, whenever there's like heavy ass rains going on there or near or around hurricane season and shit like that, some places just get outright fucking flooded to shit. Not necessarily like, you know, like city areas, but like, you know, traverse along the highways. Like some of the highways are just straight up blocked off because the rains were so heavy that it flooded up the highway. So it's just like, I mean, it's there, you know, like there's gonna be just so many different fucking things in the way. You know, from maybe like their stable little foothold on the west coast to go all the way to the east coast. Like, it would probably take legit years. Because if you consider things like insurgencies, you know, back and forths and shit. And that's even hypothetically if it could even be done. Like, honestly, realistically, it couldn't. Like, the U.S. would have to be, like, so broken down and collapsed into like a multi-fractured, like to the point where the country itself collapsed into like multi, you know, states and different little fraction nations and shit like that. Like the U.S. itself would have to basically be just like collapsing in itself for something like that to be possible, because then there'd be a power vacuum. But until there's that, it's just not gonna happen. It can be tried, but it ain't gonna work. At most, it'd probably last like a month. I think the only armed fighting we might see here is civil war, perhaps. Yeah. Like, honestly, we're going to see a lot more of domestic incursion, more so than foreign incursion here. I mean, you know, there could be a possibility of, like, you know, maybe fucking, like, some crazy weird curveball happening to Canada or Mexico or some shit where they're suddenly not exactly friendly with the US anymore. Then, you know, some other shit happens, you know, from that. Like, I don't know, there could be like some other shit, you know, that could possibly happen in the future that could change that. But all in all, like, at least when it comes to the US itself, like, the only like fighting we would see on the mainland is just from ourselves. And honestly, I mean, yeah, I mean, like, if you think about it, like, after, you know, pretty much, like, after, like, the 1820s and 1830s, like, the only real wars that have happened in the U.S. was from ourselves. Like, and the biggest one, obviously, being the Civil War, but it's just, like, you know, because it was, what was it, like, what year was it? There was, like, at one point, you know, like, where we kicked Spain out of like California and like Texas and that you know, the Alamo and all that shit. But after that, it was just basically like, well, there's no real other big player aside from England up north with Canada, but they've kind of fucked off at that point. You know, so it's like, you know, who else but us? Yeah, I don't really count like the wars with like Spain and shit for like the Philippines and you know, and or like Cuba with Maine and shit like that. I'm not really counting that because it's not mainland. Mexican-American War. Well, I guess the Mexican-American War entered the chat. I mean, okay, there's a exception, the Mexican-American War. I mean, was it just the one? Because I think that was the only one. Outside of, like, you know, the expansions with Spain, but then once Spain, like, as colonial empire collapsed, Mexico became a thing. And, yeah, I guess outside of that, like, I don't think there is. I think that's it. Yeah. So, aside from, like, Mexico being like, hey, can we try to be an empire? America was like, no. Like, I mean, aside from that one time that happens, you know, there wasn't, like, a full-on war with any other nation in the mainland U.S. It was just basically, you know, like, Mexico flexing some of their muscle, trying to be a big power, and we kind of made sure they were like, no, you're not doing that. So... I mean, outside of that, I guess, you know, the incursions and the wars of the Native Americans, too, but that's just more of, like, colonizing fucking expansion more so than fucking wars. I mean, I hardly would call what we did natives wars. But just more on just, like, yeah, this is just ours now. We're just gonna kind of just, like... I mean, I wouldn't really call it a war. That was just kind of a full-on, like, yeah, this is just ours now. Because we're America, bitch. But, yeah, some skirmishes with the Brits. Yeah, like of Canada, but even then, like, usually with a lot of that type of shit, like, if there were skirmishes, like, the delegates from both sides would come to a consensus. In fact, that's how the 48th parallel came to be. There were some clashes and conflict between who would own the colonies in the Pacific Northwest, and the agreement was the 48th parallel, which is where that whole flat, like, little curve is. Like, that's where the 48th parallel. So, it's kind of interesting how the U.S.'s northern border is, like, so odd like that, I guess, and how just flat it is because of just that one little agreement of the 48th parallel. We almost went to war over a pig. The pig war? The fuck? Oh my god, this is like over half an hour long. Holy shit. The channel's oversimplified, but can you simplify your simplified video? Because your video is not oversimplified. It's almost 40 fucking minutes. Being an American, he emerged from his tent with 4 pistols and a giant knife. And it's determined who owns some islands. I'm assuming in the Pacific Northwest, right? Because I'm looking at some of the maps and stuff that they're looking at here. And I'm seeing a lot of stuff that is kind of referring to, like the PNW here. Oh, looked like it was. It was. Oh my god. No shot. So this is like... Oh my lord. You know what's weird? There's like this little weird like chunk of Canada that's actually the US. Like this little peninsula. Actually shows it on this map right here. Here, I'll pull it up here real quick. Yeah, but if you look at where, like, that 48th parallel ends, but if you keep going to that little peninsula on Canada, you see a little blue, like, square. And there's, like, a town there that's basically, like, Canada's, quote-unquote, like, Little America. And pretty much, like, there's... From my understanding, there's actually somewhat, like, lax, like... passport laws with this town specifically, at least residents of this town, because they have to get a lot of their groceries and to get a lot of their stuff in Canada. And, you know, because they only really have some services, but not everything. So, it's basically like a little bit low-key kind of a little hideaway retiree spot, so to speak, and it's posited that like a lot of people who are like in witness protection and all that shit probably live there. So there could be like, you know, ex-mafia, you know, members and ex-cartel guys, you know, that probably live out there and shit. But yeah. So it's those chunk of iron. Oh my god. It was pretty much over a fucking pig. I'm assuming because the pig wandered off of some dude's land, and they were like, hey, let's fucking try to, you know, get our pig back. And the other dude's like, nah, this is our pig now because it's on our fucking turf. And it almost started a conflict, and they're like, you know what, we're gonna settle this by figuring out who owns these fucking islands. Just in general, damn it. Oops. Where that got something. It's like, oh my god. Some American killed a British pig for eating his crops. Oh. Well, that sounds about American. That goddamn British pig over there ate my fucking crops. I'm gonna get my musket. And I'll show that fucker what's for, that son of a bitch. It's like, my goodness. I mean, I'm also not surprised. Ooh, just put my back pretty good there. Oh, Zukov, you're such a pretty baby. Let's see if we can have a little fun time later tonight. I'm just seeing what type of toys I should bring with me. Bible banned as hate speech, one pastor says. What? Bible will be banned as hate speech, says lunatic pastor.
This out. This is hilarious. During a recent episode of his show, Jim Baker said, quote, "This is what's coming. They're going to declare
so it's Jim Baker, okay.
Bible as hate speech, trying to eliminate the use of God's word," and we're coming close to that now. So let's actually watch him say.
Of course, it's Jim Baker.
What's coming? They're going to declare the Bible as hate.
Wait, is Kyle doing like streamer mode now? Look at him. Kyle's going like, he needs to just do a live stream, and then he would be fucking like, you know, streamer bro. He's in the corner like a streamer.
Of God's word. And we're coming close to that now.
No, we are not. We are nowhere near that. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, no, we're not. I mean, it'd be like, I guess, accidentally based. I mean, because it's just like, yeah, there's kind of a lot of fucking hateful things in that shit. But honestly, it's just like, whatever. Who gives a fuck? Like, I mean, no one's gonna be trying to fucking ban Bibles or some shit unless you're in, like, some Islamic state or something like that, or some sort of fucking, like, hardcore religious fundamentalist state that happens to be very anti-Christian. It's just like, well, I guess any religious fundamentalist state that isn't the specific religion that it is, you know, is gonna hate pretty much any and all other religions. So it's just like, yeah, I mean, unless you're pretty much, like, in one of those, no one's banning it, you silly, stupid little fucking mushroom.
Of the U.S. describes themselves as Christian. Now, I don't know what percentage are actually practicing. I don't know what percentage are really like literal word-for-word believers. I'm sure there's a massive variation in all different kinds of Christians within that. But when you have a country that's over 70% Christian, according to the population, over 90% actually celebrate Christmas. You know, I know a lot of it's viewed as like a secular holiday now or whatever, but there's also the religious undertones. There's also a connection to paganism, by the way. There's a lot of the ceremonies and whatnot are taken from paganism, but the idea that we're going to ban the Bible as hate speech and try to eliminate the use of God's word. I don't know how many churches there are in the U.S., but my guess is it is probably more than any other institution in the U.S. maybe rivaled
There's probably unironically millions.
by McDonald's, maybe, but I think there's probably more churches. We're going to ban the Bible and call it hate speech. Now, by the way, if we actually have a nuanced conversation about the Bible, there is plenty of hate speech in there. That actually is true. Like, calls for genocide, actual genocides, etc., etc., but it also has the lovely parts about taking care of the poor and the downtrodden and the sick, etc., etc.
It also has weird kinky parts like incestual rape of a father, you know, from his daughters. So, you know, there's also that. There's some weird shit there too.
Thing in there.
Hearing those jets swing back around.
But guess which part of the Bible Jim Bakker uses for his philosophy? It's not about feeding the poor. It's not about caring for the downtrodden. It's not about, you know, hippie communist Jesus before communism was a thing. No, he embraces a more, you know, authoritarian, dictator-style, tough-nosed Christianity, which is just him highlighting his own...
Ignaw, don't you know you can't be raped if you're a man? Oh, yeah, of course.
Bad opinions and bad philosophy, and using the Bible as
only women can.
Justification for those things. Now, by the way, remember, this guy's a convicted fraudster. He's a criminal. But I always love guys like this. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the, you know those end times prophecy people, where they're like, the world is gonna end on...
That was fantasy being fulfilled. Honestly, though, like, I mean, whoever wrote that, like, story legit had, like, a serious, like, kink going on, for sure. Like, dead ass. I mean, like, these weird religious books have a lot of shit like that. Like, where it's like, hey, it's okay, you know, for all this weird, like, kind of, like, sexual, you know, perverted type of stuff in the Bible, but pretty much in any other format, like Pornhub or, you know, sex work or any of that shit, no, that's not good. No. It has to be, like, you know, sanctioned under God, then it's okay.
April 14th, 2018. And then the day comes and goes, and they're like, so what had happened was, we're now I'm getting word it's gonna end in 2027 on June 1st. They don't skip a beat. There's no, you know, reckoning with the fact that they were dead wrong. They just move the goalposts again, and somehow they get new followers. So it's just, imagine believing this. Imagine saying this. My guess is if the clip went on, there'd be some, you know, call for fundraising, because that's what he does. They're going to ban the Bible as hate speech, but don't worry, I will protect it, so send me money. And I
buy my...
This is also like that guy,
Jim Bakker buckets.
That guy, he would literally sell little bottles of water and say it's holy water and it's blessed and it'll cure all your illnesses, and people would send him like hundreds of dollars for it. Loathsome scumbags, man. Loathsome scumbags taking advantage of people who don't know any better. Now, I'm sure you could make criticisms that are fair and legitimate of the intelligence of the people who might fall for this, but at the end of the day, they're still victims, and this guy's driving the ship, okay? But now you know, this is the kind of stuff that they say. It's absolutely absurd. It's insane that anybody believes it, but this is where we are. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded...
Shh, Kyle. Hey, it's 420, we're gonna take this hit. Gonna take this hit. It's 420. 420 PM. Oh shit, all we get. But yeah, like, honestly, that's like the main issue with like why religious institutions, you know, being taxed is a fucking problem, because you get people like Jim Bakker who are like open over fucking fraudsters and con artists and shit who take advantage of that type of shit.
Fucking weird. Because we have the iPhone 12 and now she wants to go to a fucking Android.
Well, I prefer Androids anyway, so.
Well, that's what we have before we. Anything else. See, that's the thing, is I have my iPad, my watch, and my phone. If I go back to square one, I just have a phone. I don't have a tablet or a fucking watch.
No. Don't get all the little extra stuff. You'd have to pretty much kind of go from the ground up again.
No, I can still use my tablet. I would just have to run it off my phone. But the fucked up thing is the watch doesn't fucking. They're not compatible with Androids because they're Apple.
Well, yeah. And Apple's purposely stupid where they don't want their fucking shit interchangeable with other things.
But see, the funny thing is, when I was with when I was with T-Mobile,
Hmm?
I had a Samsung Galaxy FE, which is the fan edition. And I'm gonna take my seat back because I love you.
Oh, that baby.
I want to sit down, fucker.
Oh, that poor baby.
I know. But I had Garmin is
Come here, buddy.
Samsung's
Come here.
watch.
Sukov.
He's like, fuck you.
Sukov, come here,
What's
baby.
wrong, Bubba? Come here.
Come here, baby. Come here, Sukov. Come here. Oh, come here, baby. Come here. Oh, my God.
He's pouting.
Oh, don't be a little powder.
He's pouting.
Come here, baby. Come here. Come here, you stretchy boy.
Because Galaxy watches are cheaper than fucking Apples.
Yeah, because apples are like hella overpriced. Come here, bud.
Well, we got our watches for $10 a month.
Come here. Yeah, buddy, come here. Hashtag give Sukov his seat. Well, that's why I'm having him on my lap.
Fuck that, my chair before he got here.
Oh, you baby. Oh, you sweet little thing. You poor thing.
Well, see, this is the phone that we're going to try to go with. See, the stupid thing is, when the 13 came out, they just made a color that I really want. Alpha green.
Oh, boy, boy. Oh, you goof. You little goof. Oh.
There you go with that one.
Ooh. Looks nice. Oh, you boy, boy.
You want to see something weird? That's what they consider green is.
Looks great.
That's not green.
That's great.
I know, but it says green. If we want them. No fucking duh, I want them. They're 10 times easier.
Oh, so little. Oh, you sweet little thing. Oh, look at you. You little goof. You big goofball. You're so tough to get treats. I could just give him treats.
The dog always gets treats.
Yeah, he always does. He always does, because he's just a sweet pawpaw. Look at you, you big ball.
My laundry's done. I need to change that.
Oh, look at this little, this little bubble. Oh, look at this. Oh.
What are you doing? Come here.
He's kind of on a lap. Just kind of chilling here now.
Your Bandito's still in the same spot.
Of course. Get sloppy drunk with Zukov. I'm probably not gonna get sloppy drunk, but I'll definitely be drunk with Zukov later. But you're drunk,
You're not gonna be piss ass drunk?
I don't know, maybe.
You come home piss ass drunk, yelling and screaming, I'm literally gonna look at you until you go to bed.
Well, I'm not gonna be like.
As long as you don't come to the house screaming and yelling, I'll be perfectly fine because I'll be perfectly asleep.
Well, yeah, well, that won't happen. Oh, this fat little hunk. Look at this big goof.
Plus, I've seen you drunk and you're not like a, no, I'm not motherfucker. You're just like,
Yeah.
You're like,
I mean, I have like different levels, but I'm not like a loud, super hardcore, like, you know, type of drunk.
I've never seen you that drunk. You've seen me that drunk.
Yeah.
Because your fucking chat pisses me the fuck off.
Zook, you are a goof. What is this? What are you doing? Did you, like, lose your neck? What? Oh my god, this is adorable. Your face is so squished. You're just a squished, smooshed boy. I love you too, Ignar's roommate.
What?
He said, love you too, Ignar's roommate.
You get the finger because I really don't give a fuck.
Oh, you big loner.
I'm not an ignorant roommate. I'm the one that has to fucking go to work at 7 o'clock in the fucking morning.
You chunk.
Okay, fuck it.
Guy sit and spit on it. What, his middle finger?
You can sit and spin.
Sit and spin me round, baby, round. Gotta do the jerk off in my hands, being a chunky boy. Look at you. Oh my god, did he just like... Is he just like really knocking himself out here? He's like, what up?
Country there, Zookers.
He was very comfy. Oh, you fluff. Anyway. You sleepy boy. Well, I ain't gonna be here too much sooner, I know that much.
That's the Alpha Green Apple Watch.
See, that looks green.
That's what color the iPhone 13 is. Ooh. Isn't that cool? That's the Galaxy Watch.
It's pretty nice.
But see, that's the cool thing is that when you go to different models, or I should say different versions of watches, they have the 46, 44, 40, and 42.
What's the major difference between all of them?
Sizes.
Oh, it's...
My watch is a 44.
Oh.
But see, the difference between all these and mine is that I can actually make it look like an actual watch
Yeah.
instead of,
You know, whatever
yeah.
type of, you know, preset shit they got.
And see, that's the funny thing is that Apple makes series watches.
Our new series right here. Check out the new series of watches. They're legit kind of a little overpriced, but hey, they're still good.
Okay, I think I have the SE.
I just know Apple's just very notorious for having their shit like ridiculous, like butt fuck expensive in comparison to other shit.
360 for that.
It is a watch, so it ain't as bad for like, you know, so.
Yeah, but you can do everything on it. I can literally sit in here with my watch on, have my phone in the living room, and have my headphones in and sit there and change every song from right here.
So.
I could do that with the Galaxy too, but. Okay, so the
I've had my
Apple
phone
Watch
for
was
2 years and only paid $250 for it. Yeah, I've had my current phone for a little bit.
$330.
No, it's a little cheaper.
But see, the thing is, I don't like the bands on it. I like my band because my band just snaps in and I can tuck the other piece underneath in it so it doesn't flop around.
I just prefer the freedom of Android. Yeah, I mean, that's just my thing about like Apple's that they're very kind of exclusive to Apple only style products and shit. Because at least if like
And software.
yeah, and software too. Because at least if other stuff they're a little bit more. Yeah, as you're saying, it's like a little bit more freedom to kind of work around
Oh,
and
you did do it finally.
interchange. Oh.
So you can tuck it. But I still like my band. My band's easy as shit. I had one of these until
Thank God.
I didn't,
What time?
So what's about time? What was that?
I really want to get rid of daylight savings time.
Oh, I saw something about that. Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that would be great.
Yeah, I think I saw something about the Senate passing like a bill to end daylight savings time and shit.
The fuck does that mean?
The whole hour ahead and hour back shit every year would end because some states have already, like Arizona, have already stopped doing that. Hawaii has.
Everyone will be on the same time all year round without shifting forward and backwards.
That would suck anyway.
And that's a pain in the butt doing that.
I know, like I was like when that first happened, like on Sunday, right, or whatever,
You
whenever.
had to go to work. And
Yeah,
like,
and
fuck this shit.
Yeah, and I was like, I was like a little late, and I was like, fuck, why am I drowsy? Oh yeah, that shit. I went up there and I told him about it. I was like, oh yeah, don't worry. You know, some of us were, a little drowsy anyway too. So don't worry about it. I was like, yeah, I figured. But it's just like, fuck me. I'm still like kind of feeling a little drowsy, but I've pretty much like adjusted at this point. But still, just like.
Tomorrow's
In my
gonna,
condition, it doesn't matter.
tomorrow's gonna suck for me because I have to be up at fucking 5.
Ugh.
It's whatever time it is. It's daytime or nighttime.
Usually you don't go to bed until it's daylight.
I know.
I wake up in the morning
I
and
sleep during the day.
I
and
wake
have to work
up.
all night.
I wake up and then everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I'm awake." I'm like,
I mean, well, I'm just kind of like the closer shift, so I'm just sitting here like, oh, I wake up at like
whenever the
11 to noon, and I just go to bed at like, like in the middle of the night or whatever. Well, I mean, well, last night I did,
yeah.
but because I don't work today, so I don't give a fuck. But like, normally I would go to bed around like 1 to 3, give or take. So, but still, it's just like. At least I have a comfortable schedule, unlike these flip-floppers. I mean, especially when you got like a works, kind of a very consistent like corporate work schedule. You kind of get set in a type of regimen in a
Come
way.
here then.
Yeah, I remember one time I showed up for work.
Come here. Come here. Zukov, come here.
And I was like, well, I was doing paving at the time.
Come here.
So I showed up at the meeting spot.
Come here.
No one was there.
Uh-oh.
An hour later, people start showing up. I would say, only one!
I've done that
daylight
before.
savings time.
I've done that before. I used to go to work at I used to leave at 6. But now I leave at 6:30 something because I get there about 7. So I mean, I used to leave at 6 and I get there about like 6:10, and I'm just like, fuck, nobody's here. We were just open until like 6:45.
Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking, oh crap, there's no. I distinctly remember changing my clock and all that. So the alarm went off at the right time. Did I miss a memo?
Right? Yeah. No shit. I noticed that, like, at least at our work,
Everyone meeting here was like the dump trucks and the pavers. And
yeah, I noticed that at least at our work that our shit hasn't, like, at least on the time clocks and stuff, they haven't totally adjusted. So like my shit's been saying I've been like late, even though I'm not. It's just like, aside from Sunday, but outside of that, it's just like, huh? It hasn't like totally adjusted yet, and it's like, oh god.
They haven't probably adjusted the clock yet.
Yeah. Or it's early, one of the two. I think it's actually early, just because now it ended, and it's, what, an hour back now? Yeah, so it's been saying early.
It's hour forward.
Yeah.
Fall ahead, fall ahead.
Spring forward, fall
Spring
back.
forward,
Okay.
fall back.
So normally it'd be an hour earlier
Okay, so
from last week.
yeah. See, this is why it needs to end. Fuck.
I know. I just
What, are they gonna make it all
back
one-
an hour?
And then they're
I'm just
gonna
like, wait, no,
and
forward.
then they're gonna
now.
make it all one season.
Oh my god. Well,
That would fucking blow. Seriously.
it's like it's just the season of the year now. It's just
Yeah.
like it's the season of 2022.
So what, are we all gonna not have birthdays anymore either?
Well, if you're Jehovah's Witness, you're already ahead of the game. So I mean,
Yeah, once you hit 13, you have no more birthdays.
yeah.
Isn't it? It's what, 13?
Well, no. So I think you just have your one birthday when you're born, and that's it.
Yeah, probably.
I think that's how they see it, which I guess is
You just-
technically true, but it's like, I mean, who gives a fuck?
Your birthday is technically the anniversary of your birth.
I'm
Yeah.
close enough to 40. I'm fucking no more birthdays.
Yeah, you're still a young pup.
I'm 33.
It's better than 58.
And mom's in her 70s.
I'm just sitting
See,
here.
the funny
I'm
thing
just
is
sitting here at
that-
24, being the actual like young buck here.
The
I've
funny-
always been the young one in pretty much like any group, honestly. Even in like
no,
the fucking
No. When it's your normal group, who's the youngest one in the group? Harley.
He's the oldest one.
What?
Well, no, not the oldest. He's older than me. He's like 25 or 26 now.
What?
Yeah.
I thought Harley was in her 20s. Like 21.
Yeah, he's like 26. So he graduated like a year before me. Surprisingly.
So what is your age range in your group? Like, means everybody.
Tyler, Logan, and Stefan, they're pretty much all like 25. Harley's
26 and you're 24, so you're the youngest in them.
yeah, including in my graduation year, I was the second youngest in the whole 2015.
Back when I was going to school, my friends were
I don't know who the other
same
youngest
age,
was,
now
but
you get out in the world, you have older friends, younger friends.
I was the second oldest in my graduating class. I was 18.
yeah, I've never like outside of like very rare instances, I've always been like the youngest of pretty much like any group. And sometimes it might be someone who's like 22 or 23
I
or
was
some
lucky
shit.
My mom was, because I was youngest for my class, or maybe not the youngest, but
What?
you know, right on the line. If you're that much younger, you have to take the next grade. And just like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go through another extra year of
I
freaking
didn't-
school. No.
I didn't have to. I graduated at 19. And I turned 21 when I was living in Astoria. That sucked. That really sucked. Well, at least I came home for my 21st. I mean, I got to drink in my hometown for the first time at 21.
Nice. That's pretty much my 21st. Had my first legal drinks at the pub just around the corner. And then I bought my first legal beverages in Iceland. Like
Yeah.
that's where I bought
That
my
was
first.
funny.
Yeah, it's, like
And he told me that story. He's like, "Oh yeah, I was 21 when I was."
yeah, like I
"What
had my
the fuck?"
first legal drink here, but I
What?
bought my first legal alcohol in Iceland. It's like, I mean, that's where I like, was buying my own shit. Because on my 21st, like, obviously, I'm not necessarily buying my own drinks. Everyone else is doing that.
You would buy alcohol in Iceland?
20 and over. Like, from my
I
understanding.
thought there wasn't a drinking age, but
No, there is. Well, there's going to be a drinking age. From my understanding, if you're 20 and over, you can go to bars, but you have to be 21 to like purchase at a liquor store over in Iceland. From my understanding, if it's not the 21 purchasing, then it's 20. Because I remember like we were thinking about trying to do that trip maybe sooner, but it ended up just being after my 21st. Because I was thinking, could I potentially buy alcohol there? And I looked it up, and it was like 20 is the legal drinking age over there. So it's 1 year less than us.
Where's the place where you can drink when you're 18?
Some European countries.
Is it like
Yeah, my
crazy?
Some I know in the Netherlands you can drink illegally at 16 in bars. I think you can purchase alcohol at 18 there, but there's some bars in well, I think actually it might be Belgium or one of the two. It's one of those two states.
look, Mr. Snap.
But there's a lot of different countries where if you're 18, you can legally at least go to bars and stuff and drink and shit. Ireland, you can drink at 14.
Because they raised the drinking age. It was like the day before her birthday.
Oh, that sucks.
What was the legal drinking age in
I
the
think it
United
was
States?
18 at the time, and then they changed it to 21, so she had
That's how,
to wait 3 more years.
That's how it was for me when I had to go buy like bongs and stuff, because because of the whole like
Didn't they change it
the
to
tobacco law
21?
Yeah, because that also included pipes and shit. So I had to basically for at least like a year, not long, just for like a year basically or less, where I had to had to get my uncle or somebody else to go buy a piece for me. But at least when it came to just like everything else, I still had to wait anyway. But so it wasn't like that big of a deal. It was just like, oh damn it, because it was nice and convenient to just go into a shop and just get the piece that I want and stuff instead of just hoping that that they
You
get
described
some.
the piece well enough that they know.
Yeah, they know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, we couldn't. Well, there was one spot you could buy bongs and billings for a while. I don't think there was an age on it. And then that's closed down, so there was nowhere you could buy. So that's why I got all that pipe making stuff. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going to capitalize.
Make my own.
There's a lot of people on YouTube, on Facebook, that literally make pieces that you can literally buy for like, pieces are like what, 10, 15 bucks?
Yeah, so I made.
Like this?
So serious.
Yeah, we need to revive this son of a bitch. I have it over there for a reason to, like, hopefully get this son of a bitch revived. Because imagine taking a fatty off of this bad boy. Imagine me taking a fatty off of this. Like, goddamn.
Dude, be like taking 20 off that.
I know. It's like, this needs to be revived. It's why I when I found it last time, I just put it over there. So it's, huh?
I know it was around here somewhere.
Yeah, I think I saw it over there, but just so I know where it's at, I put it over here.
Then you just have to get a barbecue lighter to light it.
Yeah, I kind of like remelt that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of rework this little spot a little bit. Then we could put something in there.
I tried fixing it a number of times, but I've always kept them around. That's my college bong.
So like this has been around since like what the
But you need a
80s?
new
Yeah, you need a new stem and
that, and you need the stem you pull out,
yeah.
and the stem that goes in.
Honestly, I bet if we took this into like some pipe shop or some shit, they could probably tell you how to possibly make it possible to get like a piece in there or some shit. I bet there's a way to
I
fucking.
fixed it a number of times. It's just never stayed fixed very long.
Oh.
After the initial break, it didn't. I kept gluing it and gluing it.
That looks like my dad's bong from high school. From high school.
Oh, this is from college.
Yeah.
I brought it home with me. She's a good bong.
Well.
It gets the job done, blows your lungs out, but you catch a hell of a buzz off that sucker.
It's okay, I'm quite looking at it.
And you take a hit till the smoke gets up to the top, and then you pull the stem and inhale.
Yeah.
'Cause that's about one lung's full of smoke.
Yeah.
Depending on how harsh the weed is. If it's harsh, you don't want that much.
Oh boy.
But if you have mellow weed, back in college, the weed was nasty.
I can only imagine. Ugh.
Brown, red hair, just like, cough your guts out. Especially in high school, the crap that we got to smoke. You don't know the pleasure of cleaning all the seeds out of your weed to find out you have like a bowl of weed and a whole handful of seeds.
Not that bad. Every now and then I'll get seeds, but never like that.
Oh yeah, the weed that you got in high school and college was just.
And nowadays it's just like.
Yeah. Stuff like that? No, not you. But the stuff where you can go down to the corner dispensary and buy now would go for, let's see, an eighth. For good stuff, like you can buy down here, would be like $50.
Ooh. My dad told me the best.
Gram would be 20.
My dad told me the best weed from back when was Acapulco Gold and Thai Stick. Acapulco.
Oh, and some of the weed was actually a different kind. It gave you like a dirty buzz where you're like really stoned. Like this stuff gives you a clean buzz.
But there's like some dirtiness to the stone.
Yeah, you're high, but you can function. Dirty buzz, you're just kind of sitting around like
Fucking just like destroyed.
I can barely walk.
Like there's something that there's like, you know, maybe a little bit of manure, a little bit, you know, kind of stuck around.
No, it was good weed. So sometimes you get unknown crap in it, but
Maybe that's what it was. Just like a particle or two of just some unknown stuff. Y'all smoking Mexican dirt weed back then? Well, it's probably grown in the Midwest.
You got smoking it, but
A lot of it was grown in the Midwest for what he's talking about, but I mean, there were probably chances
no,
there
it
was.
Colombia.
Oh, Colombia. Oh, well,
You know, it's smuggled in from
Colombia.
south of the border.
Oh, well, never mind.
Probably they called it Colombian, but most of it was probably Mexican. Looking back,
Probably. Colombia was probably more known for the white gold more so than the green.
oh, Colombian gold
Yeah.
was good. I mean, it was brown, lots of red hairs, gold hairs. You got yourself a Pancho Villa vest.
Yeah. Well, Bandolier. So I can just kind of flip it on whenever we're out next time. So just have my shit all ready to go.
You need to get it a little bit longer in a second one, so that
Yeah.
go the full Pancho Villa.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing I'm slightly bummed about. It is a little short, but hey, you know, at least it gets all the rounds I need, like right here, all right in the very front. Can I help you? You keep pawing at me, baby. But
Somebody wants some attention.
yeah, you do. Come up here, you goof, you big goofy baby.
Yeah, somebody wants some attention, don't you? Oh, and every time I pet you, you always stick your snout in the way. You bump.
This is a goof. It's such a goof.
Yeah, I better go see what Crystal wants.
Get up. There you go. Have a little food.
That's probably
Well, baby.
all food.
Yeah, I was thinking about getting my shit done here at 6, so.
You haven't gone to the store yet?
No, yeah, I was about to here in a bit. Sukov is a good boy.
Well,
He needs pets and give him
well,
pets.
See what Crystal says, and maybe we'll have to both go together.
Well, that won't be too big of a deal. Oh my goodness. When I was giving him his pets, he always gets his pets.
Boxes definitely need to be changed.
Yeah, the litter box over there actually does smell a little funky. It does. It does a little bit. Will you be back later? Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be hanging out literally all night with my boy because he has to get back home himself, you know, and catch the max. So, we'll definitely be back a little later. I might be able to acquire a beverage or two from him, so we'll be able to have a little drink later. But, dude, I at least grab a couple snacks because I'm the snack guy. I did, what else? That's pretty much about it. Blah, blah. You just, you really want to, hey, don't worry, you will be getting all the attention and love and sweetness when we go out. And you will love it. You're going to enjoy yourself. Yes, you will. Oh, my goodness. Snack man duty. Yep. Get some Funyuns, a couple other things. Bring a few snacks for him too. Because I know you'll need it. What is this pawn? You keep pawing me, baby. Munchkin. See you, little munchkin, you. Anyway, of course, I'll be back around later tonight, so at least in the meantime, peace out, and of course, I'll be around for the next one, so come